I think Warren needs a little bit more instruction.
Warren, are you going to leave the meeting and try and come back in, or are you going to try and fix your microphone in the meeting? Okay, let's just see here. If the members who are here can turn their cameras on, I see one person still with the name Brantford panelist. If they can turn their camera on, we'll just see if we have quorum here.
It's me, I'm changing it.
Okay, welcome folks. We've got quorum, I believe, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're all set. Thanks for joining us today. I'll remind you of some of the rules. Keep your cameras turned on for quorum. If we lose quorum, we have 15 minutes to adjourn and come back. Otherwise, we're done for the day. I won't bore you with the rest of the rules. Do we have roll call taken? I'll take
Roll
that
has
as a
been
yes.
taken.
Okay, okay. No conflicts of interest, I see. So can I get a mover and seconder for everything that's on our agenda today, please? Moved by John, seconded by Cheryl. Thank you very much. Now, just bear with me a second. We're going to move on to our only item for consideration, which is 4.1 on your calendar. Sarah, are you going to be giving us an overview and a presentation?
Hi, Councillor McCreary. Myself and Heather Carvalho will be giving a presentation, and Heather will start. I just want to make sure that I have the ability to share my screen from Lisa.
Okay.
Both Heather and Sarah do have co-host abilities. You should be able to share.
This is Heather. I just want to make sure everyone can hear me as I'm calling in.
Sure can, yes. Heather.
Okay, good. I'm having some technical difficulties today, but I think we figured it out. So Sarah, thank you for sharing the screen. If you could scroll down a bit. This is our Let's Talk Brantford Community Heritage and Cultural Space project page. So the purpose of this engagement project is to gauge the need and desire for a community heritage and cultural space. And so we're starting with the cultural community through organizations and museums to ask if they need a space or could potentially use additional space. We also want to determine if these organizations have an ability to be able to pay to use the space if it were available. And so keeping in mind that the feedback that we receive from the cultural organizations will then help us formulate the questions to the general public and to be able to move forward with a more fulsome engagement process. So we have a few different options for tools here. We've created a survey that when respondents click Take Survey, it will ask questions about whether or not they need the space, would they move to this space, would they be able to pay for the space, and those types of questions. There's also a forum. Sarah, if you could click on that. So sometimes with surveys, you might find, when you're responding yes or no, and maybe you can provide a little bit of feedback, but it's just one single line. So I like to, in these project engagement pages, to provide forums where people can, they've already answered this question in the survey, but maybe they didn't really give us enough information. So the first question is, would your organization benefit from having additional space available in the city of Brantford for programming? Please tell us why or why not. The next question is, what spaces in the city of Brantford do you currently operate programming out of? Are these spaces sufficient for your needs? Why or why not? And then the last one we had is, in what ways can the city of Brantford better support the heritage and cultural community? So if you scroll up a little bit more, Sarah, there's also a questions tool And the purpose of that is, should any of these organizations have questions about this project, they can submit them anonymously, and we can either get back to them anonymously or we can get back to them publicly, depending on the nature of their question. And as we move forward, depending on responses, we might find that, you know, we can do some more tools like the ideas tools. There's lots of opportunity with the Let's Talk Brantford platform, but this will give us what we need to help us go to the public with this information if desired. Does anyone have any questions?
Lisa, can we send Warren a fresh link that he could click on and re-enter if he chooses to do that?
Yes, of course. I will do that right now.
Yeah. If we're finished with this page, can we get rid of it so I can see everybody? Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much for that, Heather. Questions or comments, guys, on this portion of the presentation? Okay, Sarah, more to come?
You can't see my hand, Councillor McCreary. I raised it
No.
diligently.
Oh, I'm very sorry, Councillor Wall. Go ahead, please.
So contrary to Councillor McCreary's request to take the presentation down, could you put the presentation back up real quick for us, please? I'm sorry. So could you just go up to the top real quick and then scroll down? Okay, perfect. So this is the public facing version of this?
This is a draft. Once everything was approved, we're going to go move forward with some graphics. But it's my understanding this won't go out to the cultural community until it's approved by this group.
Great. So is the next part of the presentation regarding the short survey?
What do you mean by that?
Where it says, please take this short survey, and that's a hyperlink. This is where it
Yeah.
goes.
Did you want to see all of the survey questions?
Well, okay, so yes, but no. I guess my biggest concern is negative feedback that I've received from members of the community from Let's Talk campaigns in the past about it not necessarily being accessible or it not necessarily being as user-friendly as possible. And I don't really think that that's a you thing. I think it's a user error, not an us error. I think that we're doing our best to be as comprehensive as possible, but it just doesn't resonate with some people. So I was wondering if maybe we could just have a little bit of a dialogue about how we could make this a little bit more user-friendly, or is there a way for people to, I believe there is, but could you tell me more about it? Is there a way for people to answer these questions without having to do it via computer? Like, could they call us and we do the survey with them? Is that an option?
Through the chair, I can respond to that question for Councillor Wall. So what we have offered is if individuals would prefer to speak to us one-on-one, we could walk through this format with them and input the data so that it is all similar when it comes time to measure the data. We will be offering that. This is a smaller group because it is the museums in Brantford, the museums outside of the city limits, as well as the wider cultural community with specific representatives. They will be given instructions via email on how to use this platform and the specific staff person to contact if they are having difficulty with it. So at this point, this is not a general public facing project. You will have to have a login in order to be able to participate so that we're able to pre-screen the individuals who are participating in this particular survey as step one.
I love that, Sarah. Thank you. So literally with no disrespect intended towards anybody who were asking to fill out this survey, I just honestly believe that there's going to have to be a little bit of hand-holding because it's imperative. Like, I don't know if you watched the 7-hour debate about chickens that we had last night, but it's super important that we talk to the people who, you know what I mean? And I know you guys are going to do your job. I'm just worried about them not, you know what whatever. I think I've said enough. I just really care about this, and I want to ensure that everybody we want to speak to actually speaks back to us. And okay, thank you.
Councillor, thank you. Councillor Sless, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Through you to, I'm not sure whoever would like to answer this. I believe we all, or a number of us, got a very comprehensive email from Kim DeFrancisco. Kim is extremely active in the theater and cultural end of the city. And she had an awfully lot in her email that I think is very valuable and very useful information. And she seems very forthcoming in sharing what her knowledge, and I think her knowledge base is very deep. That I would like somehow, if we can reach out even to her personally. I don't think she would be connected to this committee through any organization, but it's a real bastion of knowledge that we're missing if we don't talk to her, because she's certainly enlightened in this. And I'm not sure. I think staff got the email as well, so they would have contact information on Kim. But I think it would be very, very helpful and useful to us to reach out to her to get her thoughts on all of the things, and to minimally get her to fill out the survey. So I don't know if there's someone on staff would like to comment on that, but I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Through the chair to Councillor Sless, we did receive that message. I believe Councillor Antosky is going to respond specifically to Kim. We know that Kim is involved with several studio tours, including the Homedale Art Crawl. So the Homedale Art Crawl is one of the organizations we've earmarked as the wider cultural community. So within this first phase of consultation, we will ensure that she is hopefully one of the representatives that is appointed from each of the organizations to provide that feedback. At this time, we are looking for organizational feedback rather than individual feedback, but alongside personal feedback from all individuals would be requested in the next phase of consultation once we have a better picture of what the community is physically looking for.
Okay, no, that's fine, Sarah. I just didn't want her her knowledge to go, untapped. That was all. So as long as we're somehow going to capture her thoughts somewhere in the process, that's terrific. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. I did have a lengthy chat with her the other day as well. And she's very interested in sharing some of her thoughts with us on an ongoing basis. Councillor Antosky, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair McCreary. Yes, she's Kim is great. Through you to Sarah, probably. Sarah, do you have your draft list of how many organizations and museums? I know that you'll have a lot of it from the previous work, but with the addition of the museums, do you have that yet in terms of how many organizations this first step will go out to?
Through the chair, yes, we do have that to show to the group today, and we're prepared to make some notes if we are missing anything.
Thank you.
Councillor, thank you. Sir, did you have a further presentation to embark upon?
Yes, that is the contact list is the next portion of this presentation. So I'll share my screen. So everyone can see this preliminary list. So we can go through this list. Kara Davey, our Arts and Culture Development Officer, is also on the line today. She is taking notes for us. So no problem for the clerk. Kara is capturing the information. So our first group is the museums that meet the International Council of Museums definition of museum that are within the exterior boundaries of the city of Brantford. These are also the museums that would have been captured within the museum sustainability plan from 2020. That includes the Bell Homestead, the Brantford and Area Sports Hall of Recognition within the Wayne Gretzky Sports Center, the Brandt Museum and Archives on Charlotte Street, the Canadian Industrial Heritage Center, the Military Heritage Museum, Glenhurst Art Gallery, Her Majesty's Royal Chapel of the Mohawks National Historic Site, Myrtleville House Museum, and Woodland Cultural Center. So I should also describe how we are going to capture these organizations. We will be reaching out to all of them individually to ask them to appoint, if applicable, one staff member to represent staff and one individual to represent the board of directors as a whole. If they do not have staff, we'll be asking for 2 individuals from the board of directors so we can make sure that we are providing equal opportunity for each of these organizations to provide feedback. The next group is Brandt Performing Arts. So that is a network that is coordinated through the city of Brantford. Kara Davey is the staff liaison to that group. And these are all paying members within the Brandt Performing Arts organization. So they are all formal members of that group. That includes Arcady, Brant County Singers, the Brandt Men of Song, Brantford Music Club, the Brantford School of Instrumental Music, Brandt Storytime Entertainers, that's the new name for the Brandt Telltellers Guild, Brantford Symphony Orchestra, Brandt Theatre Workshops, of which Peter Muir, another member of this group, represents. He is the artistic director. Grand River Chorus, Ichthus Theatre Productions, I Think You're Grand, Little String Orchestra, Sand de Plume Media, and Telephone City Musical Society. Again, those are organizations that are paying members that are part of that formal collective. The next group is the Brandt Museums and Galleries Association, which is museums, galleries, and heritage sites within Brantford, the County of Brant, and 6 nations of the Grand River. The ones that are not captured within the City of Brantford limits are Adelaide Hunter Hoodless Museum, Burford Township Museum, Chiefswood National Historic Site, Grace Gallery, the Great War Centenary Association, the Ontario Genealogical Society Brant County Branch, which is located out of Sleepy Hollow, Paris Museum and Historical Society, and the South Dumfries Historical Society as well. And this last group is the one that we have started to capture that are representatives from cultural organizations, primarily in Brantford proper, so within the exterior boundaries of the city of Brantford, that don't fit within those other 3 categories. So Wilfrid Laurier University, County of Brant Tourism, they do work closely. They have an arts and culture staff member that we're hoping to capture. Brant capture is probably not a good word, but engage. Brantford Potters Guild, Homedale Art Crawl, the Brantford Musicians Association, Villages Festival, the Jazz Festival, the Brantford Comedy Festival, and But the Fest, captured within one category. Sanderson Center for the Performing Arts, Arts Ecology of Brantford Brant, and Brantford Regional Indigenous Support Center. So this is our preliminary list, ensuring that we are focusing on museums and cultural organizations within the city of Brantford, but we are open to other suggestions for individuals representing specific organizations that we should capture within this first phase of consultation, and ensuring that that first phase of consultation remains with looking at the need and desire for a space rather than the feasibility for the space at this time. And if you have any questions, or this is a great opportunity to provide us with any other organizations, we can add to this list and Kara will capture that.
Thank you, Sarah. So rather than trying to add things on today verbally, folks, maybe what we could do is give some thought to it in the next day or so, provide an email to Sarah with any other key individuals or organizations that we want to include, okay? Peter, you have the floor. Go ahead, please, and welcome.
Hi. Yeah, I was just going to suggest another contact, so I can do that through email. Thanks. Thanks, Dan.
That's excellent. Thank you, Peter. Am I hearing myself talk? I think I am. Councillor Wall, second time.
Might want to unmute.
There you go. Hello. I was going to do the thing you said not to do, so I won't do it. Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut off discussion, folks, but that's probably a more efficient use of time is simply to email them in. So any further discussion on either the plan or the list? I will say that there probably is some merit in staff and perhaps the chair and vice chair meeting with a few of these organizations, specifically those who may want to take up residence within the structure, the CIHC and Military Museum and Brandt Museum and Archives. So probably 4 or 5 or 6 that chair and vice chair and staff could meet with. Thoughts on that, guys? Welcome, Andy. Good to have you. Can you hear us okay? Cheryl?
Thanks, Councillor McCreary. I'm always in favor of meeting with the different groups. I'm wondering what you have in mind where you're saying just 5 or 6 of them. Are you just trying to get a feel from each area, or what's the thought?
Well, actually, one of the key components of what we're all talking about here is to begin to sustain those who have a tough time making ends meet, namely the Brandt Museum and Archives, Canadian Military Heritage Museum, CIHC, to name a few. They are folks whose collections would be housed within a consolidated museum facility. So they would be the key partners in the creation of this. They'd be the hub, so to speak. And I think Cheryl, I think it would be advantageous to meet with them, person to person, face to face, to get some idea of, what their needs would be, what their desires would be. The remainder of the space is going to suit a multitude of groups for a multitude of uses, but I think we probably should be having the face-to-face meetings with the key stakeholders. So does that make sense to you, Cheryl?
It does. I'm just
Yeah.
wondering if you might want to consider a couple of the others that we're looking to have physical space, like the Potter's Guild, for instance.
Yeah, that's probably an excellent suggestion as well, and maybe that's a list that we can all give some thought to, and we can again give Sarah our recommendations as to who should be a face-to-face meeting with a small group of us. Okay. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor. One of the questions in the survey is actually asking what kind of relationship the organizations foresee with the space, whether that's a permanent tenant or a temporary event-based tenant. So we will be able to filter a list of organizations that are looking for actual physical space to have a permanent relationship with.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, I don't see any more hands up. Oh, there's a hand up. Go ahead, Councillor.
Sorry, will we be able to see a draft of the questions before it goes out?
Through the chair to Councillor Antosky, that was not something that staff was planning to do, as we were directed to undertake the survey. But if you would like to see the questions prior to that, we can definitely share them for information. I think depending on procedures, if there is feedback or changes to those, we would probably have to have another meeting in advance.
Yes, I recognize your concern with that. Yes, I would like to look at them with no indication of making changes and upsetting your process at all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. It is our plan to be to committee of the whole, I guess, mid-April. I can't recall exactly what the date is. But I suppose if there was something that was of significant concern, we could give consideration to another meeting before that date. Any other questions or comments, folks? Then I think what we'll do is we'll go to the vote on item 4.1. And that's that we receive the report before us, which then gives staff the blessing to bring this to council in April, and then they'll be able to proceed with what we've had outlined for us today. Okay. So let me ask then by a physical show of hands, those in favor of what's before us, item 4.1. And I see that carries. Thank you. The only other item of business we have today is the minutes. Those are already on the floor, having been moved and seconded as an omnibus bill. So if I could ask you first of all if there are any errors or omissions on the minutes. I don't see any. So then we will go to the vote on the minutes. And again, a physical show of hands of those in favor. And that carries as well. We don't have any resolutions. We don't have any notices of motion. So that concludes our business today, folks. Let me thank everybody very much for their attendance, and barring anything that comes up with respect to the questions needing change, we'll all get together again sometime after this comes to committee of the whole in April. Okay, Andy? We could see your microphone buttons live, Andy, but there we go. Excellent.
I have to plug in them. First of all, I'm sorry I'm late, Chair. It was no offense. I was stuck with a client. I just wanted to say thank you for having me on your committee, and I look forward to working with all of you. I know some of you from my journeys around Brantford, and based on some ideas, I was hoping that maybe next meeting I could share some ideas, because I was a listener into the last meeting and I took a lot of notes. So I just wanted to share some ideas based on that, but that's another day.
One of the things, thank you very much for that, Andy, and we welcome your presence on the committee. One of the things I'd really like to see us get to, maybe in April, if we've relaxed our rules at City Hall, is to have an in-person meeting and do a little blue skying. That would be most beneficial. I know some of you have already put thought to paper, but it sure would be great if we could all be in the same room and on the same topic.
I think
the
Warren
chair.
likes this virtual thing, Dan.
Sorry, John?
I think Warren really likes this virtual thing.
Well, Warren is a tech master. Warren, it looks like your microphone will work now. Warren, press your microphone button. No, I guess not.
Push the unmute, Warren. Unmute. Can you see a thing there that says unmute?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes. Okay, now we
Okay.
can end the meeting having heard your voice.
What a beautiful voice it is.
Would you like me to sing?
I would like you to, Warren, I would like you to move the adjournment if you wouldn't mind.
I would just like to say to everybody, I was at the Grand River Chorus rehearsal and performance on Monday night, and it was wonderful.
That's
So
excellent.
I would now, oh, and I was singing in a rather drunken state at the Thistle and Rose on St. Patrick's Day. So there.
Well, thank you for that cultural update.
Yes, I would like to move that this meeting be adjourned.
Okay, thank you. We are adjourned, folks. Thanks very much for your participation today. Hoping to see you all in person next month, okay?
I'll have a helper.